just going to do it this way? Okay. This is SURA. We're going first?
Yep.
We're going to get this started. This is the, nope.
There were 3 comments.
Okay. This is the budget meeting for the Syracuse Urban Renewal Agency. Councilor Green, I'm joined by Councilor Hogan, Councilor Caldwell, Councilor Monto, Councilor Peniagua, Council President Hudson, Councilor Allen, and Councilor Schultz. So why don't we turn it over to you guys, and you can walk us through it.
Thank you. Brad O'Connor, Commissioner of Finance, and here with me is Michael Collins, Commissioner of Neighborhood and Business Development. So this is Syracuse Urban Renewal Agency. This is going to be a little bit different than some of the other budget presentations you've seen. Syracuse Urban Renewal Agency is a separate entity. It's not part of the city of Syracuse. You know, a lot of what you've been seeing so far have been departments within the city of Syracuse. So this is going to be a little bit different. Syracuse Urban Renewal Agency is an agency that by its bylaws has a board comprised of the president of the Common Council, the mayor of the city, and the commissioner of finance are the 3 voting members. There's also a non-voting secretary, the commissioner of neighborhood and business development. The agency exists to promote urban renewal within the urban renewal district. How this relates to the city budget that you're reviewing is there are a number of SURA employees that are paid for, reimbursed by city operating departments. So what we have here, the city reimbursed SURA employees don't show up in any one place in your budget book. It shows up in several different departments. When a department uses a SURA employee, it's going to show up on the department operating budget under the SURA employee line. So you're not going to see anything in what we are presenting today that will tie one-to-one to the budget. It's going to be the accumulation of several different departments, and you'll see what departments those come from and some of the detail pages here. So I've got a summary of the budgeted SURA positions in a comparison to last year. Last year there were 64 total positions on the SURA budget. We eliminated 8 of those positions, created 32, which got us to 88 full-time positions on the fiscal 24 budget. If you remember, there are 15 part-time temporary police cadets that are part of the SURA budget. I didn't include those in the head count because they're a different type of position. It's not a permanent position. They're short-term positions. So that is in addition to the 88 that you'll see. Total personnel costs. So the city reimburses SURA not only for salaries but for benefits, payroll taxes, and other costs. The total SURA personnel costs for 2024 you'll see are $7,858,498, and below that you'll see how that's reimbursed. Largely reimbursed from general fund departments. When you go through each of the department budgets, you'll see a line for SURA reimbursement. Small amounts are reimbursed by the Water and Sewer Fund. we have about $1.7 million that are reimbursed by city grants, and these are largely the HUD grants that are administered by the Neighborhood and Business Development Department, and also some positions are reimbursed by ARPA. And a small handful of positions are reimbursed by SIDA and SEDCO, separate entities that are not part of the city's budget. I've got for you a listing of each of the positions. So you'll see first the positions we had in 2023. We've identified which positions were either eliminated or moved to the city. And following that is a listing of the 2024 positions, highlighting any new positions.
Council, if I may, I know that at each meeting, budget meeting, when we talk about SURA, we talk about the positions, and we worked hard to reduce that SURA number. So when we came back this year and saw 88, I said, okay, let me evaluate what that was. And so when we look at everything on, I think it's page 3 of yours, begins where you see everything green that says new. These are largely the positions that are going to be going into NBD as part of the SACPA, what we call the redesign under NBD, creating the 2 deputy commissioner positions, bringing planners and zoning plan reviewers into the position. And something else that we did is that you'll see DPW and engineering, for example. As we were redesigning this, what happens now is, like, for example, in Mary's department in engineering, plan review is a part of a person's existing job. We, in this redesign, saw it as an opportunity to create a position in DPW and engineering, for example, that we station those individuals, and plan reviewing and the part around permitting is their full-time job. So that's an example. We talked about the commercial zoning planners, really building up that department with these positions. You also see the 2 deputy commissioners in here, and you also see, turn the page, some grant-related positions fall under SURA as well. For example, the gun violence, not Latif, but the other 2 are directly DOJ funded. The Business Growth Incubator, for example, that's a grant program that we brought on board, and brought Kristen Maxey on board for that program. The other positions are ARPA-related positions. So Mike brought on a new position, Housing Initiatives Program Manager. There's quite a bit of ARPA money around housing. That's all embedded within that ARPA administrative costs that we associated with the program. And so I wanted to just break out why these new positions are there. Some of it is ARPA-related, some of it is grant position-related. The vast majority of it is based on what we're going to do with SACPA and bringing that function back into City Hall.
So before you leave, Deputy Mayor, let me ask you a question. So when you talk about, let's talk about the ARPA funding. So the ARPA funding, so the positions in here are going to stay on the SURA payroll for what, 2 years, 3 years?
Probably 2, maybe 3, depending on
Thing with the grants, correct? Some of
the grants during the duration. The Kristen Mackey position, the BGA coordinator, we're getting funding for 1 year of the grant, but the funder is requiring us to follow up with these companies. So we are hoping that we'll be able to actually make that a permanent part of the general fund, because it provides support to these business growth accelerator programs.
And when we talk about SACPA, right?
Yeah.
So right now SACPA is tucked away in SURA, but at some point, well, not SACPA per se, but the reimagining.
Yes.
So once we reimagine it, at some point, you're going to absorb it into your budget, right? And it'll come off of SURA.
So you will see it within the budget. The positions are within SURA because the significant amount of that work are within the urban core areas that are designated by SURA, the neighborhood revitalization strategy areas. So the focus of where that work is fits within the mission of SURA.
You're not going to absorb Owen and those guys, they won't get absorbed into your budget?
So this is where there's overlap. So they, from a budget standpoint, you will see them in there, but they'll be employees on within the SURA payroll.
As most of his employees are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we've worked hard over the course of several years is to take out positions that were not directly related to urban renewal. What has remained as the bulk of Mike's staff people, and now that that is growing, you'll see those added people in this SURA line, plus the grants. So the BGA, the gun violence position, ARPA positions. That's what you see there.
And the cadets?
The cadets
Are they going to live in SURA?
They're 50 months. They're 50 months, 50 weeks. The program is 50 weeks. And then you're taking the civil service exam to be able to go through this is junior cadet, through the cadet program. And then you're going to be a police officer living in the city on this police payroll or not.
Okay.
Yeah. So as we continue the cadet program, you might see a rotation of, because there's no civil service test or anything right now for that. And do we want them to have to do a civil service test for the preparation for the police test? And so that's the purpose of the cadet program. And so that's why they're there. So there may be a rotation. We think this is a successful program. We're going to see the fruits of it at the end of this 50 weeks and how many people we can get on taking that test and progressing onto the police force from it.
This is the first time for that, right?
This is the first one we had was maybe 5 or 6 people. I think 1 or 2 people moved on to take the test, and I have to ask the chief how many of them. But this is the first full one we've had. Yes.
So once we get through the full one, then they go through the rotation and come back out, then you'll let us know the ones that took the civil service? And
Yes. I'll make sure the police gives us a progress report on how that went. But it's a 50-week program.
15 or 50?
50. Yeah, 50. Yeah.
Questions?
Just to reframe that a little bit. So once they get through and they pass the civil service positions, they become part of the police department budget.
They take the test,
Yeah.
and then we
So
go
they're
through that
officer
process.
and
Yes.
stuff.
The whole idea of the junior cadet program is to coach them and prepare them for that test. Not only that, but the physical requirements, learning laws, so that when the test comes up, they're more prepared to do it. Actually, one of this 15 is going to be taking the test now, or is in the rotation right now.
Okay. Just a couple things. SURA's got a board, obviously, right?
Correct.
Who's on the board?
The board is the mayor, council president, the commissioner of finance. Those are the 3 voting, and then non-voting as as secretaries, commissioner of neighborhood and business development.
Okay. So, and this obviously, I've been around a lot. This gives you more flexibility. You need this, basically. We used to go over this with a fine-tooth comb and all that, but in essence, there's always a delay as far as even creating civil service positions for a lot of these, and tests and all that stuff. So, you are audited, but you're not a state agency, correct?
Right, we're a city agency.
City agency, so will be audited by the city auditor, or is there an audit, or do you hire somebody audit?
Yeah, we get an audit by a third-party CPA, Bonadeo audits us, yeah.
Now, is that part of the audit that we receive, or is this separate?
SURA is a component unit in the city's financial statements. So yes, it's included in the city's financial statements, but it's such a small piece that it's buried pretty deeply in there.
What page is that on? No, I'm only kidding.
38.
30. Good. I like that. You kind of came right back with that. That's all I got. Thanks.
So Commissioner, I'm asking a very elementary question here. Where is the budget that this position gets funded from part of the general fund?
It is. So
There, where does this money come from?
yeah. So the in that reimbursed by section, general fund departments for $5.7 million. So that is going to be a line item in each of the departments' general fund budgets. So you've got your salary line, and then in the past we called it reimbursable expenses. Now it's called something slightly different, but it's called out as its own line item in the department general fund budgets.
So like I said, I'm getting elementary with it. So why do we need a separate general fund? I mean, why this than it being a regular
So back in the, I believe it was mid-'60s, urban renewal agencies were created for a variety of reasons, and honestly, if you look at a lot of the work that happened across the nation, they were not necessarily good reasons. We've been fortunate in the fact that in the city of Syracuse, that we stuck to the mission of it, which is specifically it's a more flexible entity than a municipal government can be to be able to do work to revitalize the urban core in the areas that have been blighted through the bad policy that we saw in the 60s and 70s. That work, as we all know, is just as needed today, and so having a vehicle to do that is really the right thing for us to do.
I'll just add that what we have worked on is that, when we came into office, it was definitely relayed to us by the council to take a look at our SURA payroll and look at who's on it and who shouldn't be on it. So we've done a lot of that. So this is the first time probably since we've been here, you see a significant increase, but it really is driven by what we're doing to bring that zoning and planning operation back under city government. We've been successful in applying for a few grants, and then ARPA is the other new kind of functionality we have in the city.
So question though, so with the zoning and the entities we're bringing back in, there's money attached to bring them back in, correct?
From within the abstract that we're going to,
So would that not qualify to be able to take that funding, stay with me, I'm getting it.
No,
To take that funding and actually put it back into the department and move it off of SURA?
So the funding is going to the department, and that's where that overlap is between SURA. So from a financial standpoint, it is exactly what you're suggesting.
SURA is the classification of the position,
Right.
but the money is, you know this, you've
For
been
right
doing
now,
this forever.
and it goes back, okay.
So, can I?
Yep.
So, of course, these positions are new, so they're vacant. Are we being competitive in the salaries we're offering here? I mean, is it going to be...
We're trying to be, Counselor. Again, you'll hear this over and over again. We're coming to the conclusion of the compensation study, so we're hoping to be able to right-size some of our positions. We're trying to be as competitive as we can within the budget right now.
Those full times, I mean, this is just salary, then we add what the package will cost, the employee package.
The fringe benefits, and talking to the wrong person because that is a totality of the fringe benefits. So what you have right there is just a salary.
Actually, I noticed that with a lot of the people you need to worry about their benefits because they're retired folks and they're coming back to serve the city as advisors, which helps us out a lot as far as institutional knowledge goes.
That was a conversation we had, I believe. I can't remember which conversation we had, but just that historical knowledge. Sometimes people come back and they help us during that transition because you cannot replace that historical knowledge.
So what's the advantage of the SURA? You said, Commissioner, that it started in the 60s and most of it wasn't done right by other municipalities, but we stuck to the mission, so we still have it. How does that benefit us versus just pushing these positions into the respective departments?
Can I?
Yeah.
I'll just probably be more blunt. Doing this allows you to, the charter as well as civil service make it hard to create new positions. So if you're going to do like the Office of Gun Violence, things like that, it would be a very time-consuming thing to do it. So if you want to implement things quickly, SURA gives you an expedited thing to do it very quickly, and that's largely what it is.
And and quite frankly, the director of the Office of Gun Violence, we posted and had quite a few applicants. Just simply scoring high on a civil service test doesn't mean that you're actually qualified to do that job.
And back in the 60s, you could hire your uncle, too, so.
He would know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Civil service after you is Johnny had 4 apples and Helen gave him 2. Well, what does that have to do with this job?
Well, that hasn't changed much.
Your the R&I planner position, it was eliminated, but we're like in the thick of it right now. So I'm assuming the job has been scattered amongst your staff.
So specifically 2. So we now have the business corridor manager position that Brianka Hill fills. So when we look at the Resurgent Neighborhoods Initiative being the focus on the business corridors and then the adjacent residential areas, Hannah Gardy has come over from API to join the NBD team as the coordinator for infill. So yeah, we took that and very specifically divided it into 2.
And then I've seen at least 3 people on here that I know no longer work here, but they're not listed as vacant. So are these ones you guys are just leaving open to hire new people?
Is that the green or the red?
They're actually in black.
Black.
Yeah, so Director of Permits, you got Director of Minority Affairs.
Yeah, those are currently posted positions.
Okay,
Yep.
so they're posted. Okay, gotcha.
So just as a follow-up of what I was asking, so if the number, the total number of what each of these employees will cost the city is not reflected here, who absorbs that? General fund, departments?
Yeah, so the total SURA cost to the city is that on the bottom of the personnel budget summary, general fund departments are reimbursing SURA $5,659,000. So that number is broken up across 20 different departments, and you'll see it as part of the department's operating budget.
What is that line called in each budget?
Contracted services and related parties. It's 541700. So all the departments, the money in there should tie to the list that you have.
You'll see that line in multiple departments, and that is
Okay.
this.
Thank you.
I also think, sir, it makes sense when we have grant funding and a position may not last forever. That's like the responsible place to put a position as well, so that if the grant funding goes away.
Repeat that again, Rod. What do you call that line? What's the line?
Contracted services related parties, 541700. So it's in all the contractual and other expenses.
Now, Deputy Mayor, with all these positions and flexibility around SURA, is there a limit as to, is there a ceiling, or is how?
There isn't, and we've really worked hard to lower the number, because I think we were in the hundreds when we came in, and we had been doing a good job of removing and eliminating SURA positions and moving them to the civil service list. This was because of some growth and some changes in how we want to operate as a city. So when you look at this, it's really dominated by codes and dominated by NBD, and really driven by how we're going to bring back that functionality back to the city. And then Tim has something I wanted to talk about, but I forgot.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay.
So, no, wait. With that, I just thought of something.
We almost made it.
It's only one.
It's only one.
With the flexibility, Deputy Mayor, I don't see any, I see Jimmy Oliver, and could we, because civil service is one of our barriers into a
He's here. Okay.
Could we branch that way, or is there a limit?
That is, it is, we don't have that flexibility for, there are positions that are civil service. As Councilor Hogan mentioned, many of the positions that we create because we write grants and et cetera, there is no civil service exam. And it's hard to hire somebody, we already have struggle hiring. To hire somebody provisionally, because sometime in the future an exam is going to come and you have to test at the top 5 to be interviewed, that's tough recruiting.
So let me ask you this, though. So each area that we're talking about, civil service, they're given differently for police, for this, for that. So they're all separate entities when it's the civil service, correct?
Yes.
So there's not just like, okay, everybody on the list just come into the room and take the civil service.
No, it's all different depending on the specialty.
Okay.
And to your point, the entire system needs to be overhauled. I mean, some of those tests are really old and don't, like to your point, don't have anything to do. Right, right, right.
Question, does SURA only pay salaries, or do they pay other
That's a great question.
things?
They pay salaries and benefits and taxes. So so you'll see the difference between the salaries, total fiscal year 24 salaries on the summary page of 5.4 million and total SURA personnel costs of 7.8 million. So the difference is benefits, health, retirement, taxes.
And the decision makers are strictly city employees, right?
The decision makers?
For SURA, and your president, who's a city employee, and mayor,
Yeah.
commissioner.
You said one.
That was it. I got nothing.
You got an uncle looking for a job?
A great example, the position for a refugee community, that's in SURA.
One of his kids.
So I would let them keep coming at me like, you gotta get some comeback. What's on the You ready? You gotta be ready. You gotta whisper some things over here. Come back.
All right, we will close this hearing. Thank you all very much.